Welcome to the December 11th PFF forecast. I'm George. As usual, we're going to hit Brad and Ben Brown up for the first segment of the Sunday night show. We're going to talk about quarterbacks that no one expected to be talking about after week 14. They are Jared Goff and Brock Purdy, the answer. We'll talk a little maybe Tua and Herbert as well. And a team not currently in the playoffs that we think will make the playoffs as well. And then we're going to bring Arjun back in after he decompresses from the Chargers boner that he's currently popped. And we'll talk to him about the week 15 lines. We'll guess them and we'll pick our favorite bets. Let's rock. I wasn't sure if I was going to say that. I was like, should I say this? And I was like, yeah, whatever. Screw it. Welcome to the Sunday night PFF forecast, members of the printing press. Hopefully all of you listened last week, but didn't listen to us about the Chargers. If you did, then you're in good shape because everything else I think was fairly on point. Maybe the Titans, not so great. But the interesting thing that I was looking at from a math perspective, and maybe you guys can help me out on this, is if you have 0 throws worthy of being posted on social media, what does that mean for your team? Like, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? I'm trying to figure that out. We were talking a lot about how social media throws are like not great. Justin Herbert had a few. I think he put that noise to rest. How are you fellas doing? How did your weeks turn out, Brad and Ben?
Yeah, feeling great. Tua today, if you take out the touchdown to Tyreek Hill, which was almost entirely Tyreek Hill, he was 6 of 24 for 64 yards. That doesn't play on social media or anywhere else. Not the greatest stat line there. Doing okay only because Vikings-Lions over saved me this week, as it has a few times before. Both these teams, I mean, we talk a lot about Detroit. Minnesota has a bottom 5 defense in the NFL, and they have been an automatic over bet. Killed us in the backdoor tease leg with that field goal, but the over was the biggest play of the weekend for me, so that was nice.
Yeah, I would say I think Tua's one throw to Tyreek Hill where he didn't see it and couldn't find it in the lights or whatever that was. I think that was a social media throw or whatever. I thought that was pretty good. That was maybe his best throw all night. But yeah, I was kind of with Brad. I think if I was looking at simply my win-loss record, it would have been pretty sparkling. I went 9-1 on props or something like that. But my 3 biggest positions were, unfortunately, the Vikings against the spread, the Buccaneers against the spread, which was never close. And then I did have a bunch of early Dolphins at -1.5, and then I did buy in some more at -3, and that was not the correct play either. So I think from a win-loss record, I did pretty well, but overall units won. It was a bloodbath in the streets, I would say, for me, not picking out the correct spots, I would say, to pound in week 14, unfortunately.
Luckily last Sunday night, I placed the majority of the bets that I placed all week. I had a really busy week. I would say that's the one benefit of doing this on Sunday night is I just get some money down immediately. And I'm like, okay, I don't really need to worry about things. Because we ended up with, I had a lot on the Baltimore, Kansas City teaser that we talked about last week. And it was crazy because I'm watching the Baltimore game. Tyler Huntley goes out. I'm like, here we go. Because Minnesota not being able to cover the teaser, I mean, an absolute disgrace. Let's talk about that a little bit because there's some good questions in the chat, by the way, members of the printing press who get up. Stay up with us. We always appreciate it. A lot of people that are interested in the quarterback data from PFF because Tua's been such a highly graded quarterback. Obviously, the last 2 weeks have not been solid. But a guy who has been incredibly good over the last 2 weeks, and I think this is well worth a conversation, is Jared Goff. Jared Goff traded for Matthew Stafford. They sent a first-round pick, the Los Angeles Rams did, with Jared Goff because he was so bad. You look at that now. You look at the Detroit Lions. They're 6-7. They are basically a game in the win column outside of the playoffs. They are playing incredibly well. Their offense is unstoppable. They just got Jameson Williams back. Should the Detroit Lions re-rack with Jared Goff? Is that the quarterback that can take them to the promised land? Number 1 overall pick, Jared Goff. Let's start with you, Brad. What do you think?
Yeah, so I will say this couples with just watching these college quarterbacks, and in my opinion, outside of Bryce Young, like I don't know if CJ Stroud is that guy I'm taking second or third or fourth or fifth overall. It comes down to the Rams pick and Baker Mayfield more than their own pick at this point, obviously. But you just look at Goff in the last 3 weeks. 8.4 yards per attempt, 1,000 passing yards, over 1,000 passing yards, 7 touchdowns, no interceptions, 84 adjusted completion percentage. He now gets back Jameson Williams, like you mentioned, who had the big touchdown today. Was a busted coverage, but just a wide open touchdown. I think it's more the question of we're in this new era of quarterbacking where you want that young guy or you want to go get an Aaron Rodgers or whatever in a trade. He's kind of in that middle ground now. Or if you can pay a guy like $25 million a year, which is about what he's making for the last couple of years of this deal, unless you're in love with the prospect, I get the whole argument of like being in purgatory and kind of not letting yourself have those picks. Maybe trade down from the Rams pick this year or get creative, because I just don't love this quarterback class. And look, is Goff going to win them a Super Bowl? No, but as of right now with this Detroit team, I would say, all right, take another class, build around elsewhere, build the defense a little bit, and then maybe you're still bad next year. You lose some of those one-score games. Dan Campbell does some Dan Campbell things, and then you can land your quarterback. I'm just not sure he's bad enough right now to force it if you don't love the option.
Yeah, I would actually agree with Brad. I do think that pushing out the window on making a decision on if you want to draft a rookie quarterback to like the 2024 window or even the 2025 window is probably the best case scenario for a young Lions team that, very much is going to have still, I would say, playmakers at the wide receiver position on rookie deals and have kind of like pushed out the veteran guys that they need offensively to kind of extend out that window. So I don't mind pushing out. The problem, of course, is like their draft capital and everything else. And if they get, a top 3 or top 4 pick from the Los Angeles Rams trade with Matthew Stafford, like how can they pivot that to not necessarily take a quarterback early on next year and maybe still be up in that class in 2024 or 2025, which I do think is going to have, like Brad, the much better quarterback prospects. But I think long-term, like, I don't know if they're going to win, even I would say the NFC North next year with Jared Goff at quarterback. Very much, I would say, has kind of been a byproduct of the skill position players around him. I think he's like the 4th best PFF passing grade over the past 2 weeks, but only has like 31% of his throws past the line, past the stick. So I would say it's been too much of, the yards after the catch, still everything else, very much dump offs to DeAndre Swift, and everything else. So I don't think Goff is the long-term answer, but I think, pushing out that decision on a young quarterback and maybe taking a guy in 2024 is not a bad long-term approach from the Lions team building perspective, I would say.
It's interesting because it's the playbook that they're running is similar to the Rams playbook. I mean, they've got a lot of playmakers. You saw Jameson Williams come back today. They have obviously Amon-Ra St. Brown has been a revelation there. They have a couple of running backs who have been solid. Their offensive line is really solid. They've accumulated a lot of talent. And so I think the question is, how are you going to win with that talent? Right? What's your path to trying to leverage the talent that you have to go and win a Super Bowl? And here's the tough thing for the Lions. Super Bowl hasn't been in the vocabulary for so long. So I think it's going to be very tempting. I think the Lions are going to have a really hard time looking at the end of the season and going, hey, look, we are, let me check here, 4th in EPA per play. Okay. 4th in EPA per play. Jared Goff is like 25th in PFF grade. So if you want to go and dump it all on his lap as far as who's to responsible for that, I think you're making a big leap. But the question has to be, how do you set yourself up to get a quarterback that you can win with this talent? And I'm kind of with Brad here, but I defer. If you can get a Bryce Young, I mean, I don't know how you would, but how do you set yourself up maybe for a run next year? The problem is you're not going to lose enough games. So I think that's really the question. Like, could you re-sign him? Could you maybe trade him at some point next season? Could you draft a younger guy, maybe not in the first round, take a couple shots there at quarterback. It's really tough because, I mean, they've had a really nice offensive season thus far and probably deserve a couple more wins. Like, I think if you flip 1-score games, they're probably are they maybe winning? I think they're winning the NFC North because the Vikings have been so bad. And so you have an opportunity potentially to win the division. Here's my, I guess, a follow-up question for you guys is, how much do you look ahead to the quarterback class after that? And how would you play it to try? I mean, everyone thinks Caleb Williams is the next Patrick Mahomes. Whatever you want to say there. But like, how would you set yourself up potentially to be in the running there, or would you just forget about it?
I think you have to a degree, just build out how you could go about that. Caleb Williams, Drake May is a crazy prospect coming down the pike as well in North Carolina. I mean, it's not like you're going to just like build up and then tank, but it's more so just let's not take our shot yet. Like, I still think teams should be aggressive. Frankly, with the way the NFL zigs and zags, like quarterback prices might be down this offseason because of how bad the trades have gone this year. It's kind of a response league. I also think will be interesting is if Ben Johnson gets hired somewhere else, or offensive coordinator who was just in his bag today, the throw to Penei Sewell, who was rumbling and stumbling and bumbling for a first down. They had the fake punt. Like, if he leaves and becomes a head coach somewhere, does that maybe change your calculus? And that will happen before free agency, before the draft. So you think of it to a degree, but I would then just think, if we are going to bring someone in, just make this the best situation possible. You have a good offensive line, you have good receivers. So maybe now is the time to strike. You mentioned they're on the rookie contracts and whatnot, but I just think there's also, it's tough. It's kind of this cat and mouse game of more so like, is Jimmy Garoppolo is not an upgrade over Jared Goff. There's no, you either get Aaron Rodgers or whoever in a trade, or you get a top 5 pick. I don't think there's anything else that's actually a better option right now.
I gotta ask Ben this: would Kirk Cousins be an upgrade over Jared Goff?
I mean, not enough to the point where I would say it's actually worth it, right? I think like on Arjun's scale, it's probably he's probably maybe 0.8 of what Kirk's actually going to provide or something like that, right? So I think it's relatively close, but like Brad said, I mean, you're either going veteran retreat who is trying to win 1 or 2 more Super Bowls, with a window with a rookie core outside of the quarterback position, which could be an enticing option, a la, Aaron Rodgers. I do think Tom Brady is going to hit a reset here and probably end up in a different scenario after this year as well. But outside of that, I'm very much inclined to push the quarterback decision out a year, given what Brad said basically about, how we're kind of evaluating the quarterback position at the college football level. So unless you want to go, more of a late round pick and take a flyer on the guy next year, and then kind of see what you have with Jared Goff and, a guy I should probably get lambasted for saying this, but a guy like, Spencer Rattler later on in the draft who has at least flashed certain, I would say big play potential with both, the rushing ability and throwing. Maybe he's a guy later on, not necessarily a first round pick, that you could maybe at least figure out what you have with him, at quarterback. And then the year after, especially if things don't go right in 2024 or 2025, maybe you are looking at a guy, in the top 5 pick that you can actually probably reset the franchise with a little bit. But like Brad said, it's hard to see them bottoming out again with the core that their roster actually has, to the point where they are going to have a top 5 pick in one of those years to actually select one of those guys as well. So I don't hate maybe the veteran retreat option for the Lions maybe coming up here next year as well.
I think if you can convince Goff, hey, we'll pay you plenty of money, but we're not going to pay you so much that the rest of the team is going to suffer. Let's go try and win the NFC North, right. Let's go for it. I think that's the best path forward. Spencer Rattler. I feel like Spencer Rattler and Dan Campbell get together and
that would be
get along
match made in hell.
Right. Yeah, that doesn't strike me as a good one. But let's talk about real quick. You mentioned Tom Brady, and my belief is that Brady wants to go back to San Francisco. I don't think I feel like he really hasn't made that big of a secret. It makes so much sense. He's such a family guy. His family's there. It's it feels like the thing. Brock Purdy goes out and out, whoops his ass. So before we get to the Brady talk, where would you put the Niners? Are the Niners with Brock Purdy, no Jimmy G coming back? Where are the Niners in the NFC with Brock Purdy?
Dude, my take aged wonderfully from last week, by the way, when I said they might still be the best team in the conference. I'm not going to stick with that. I'm still going to – I think Jalen Hurts really is kind of stacking games at this point where I would trust him, later in a playoff game. Dak still kind of gives you question marks. They did enough today, and their defense is pretty ferocious when it needs to be. But, the drop-off really isn't that big from Purdy to Garoppolo. Granted, the Deebo Samuel injury is obviously a huge one to monitor, but they're just, like I said last week, when you're that much better in the trenches, you add Eric Armstead in this game today, who hasn't played basically the entire season, and you didn't have that the whole year and you were already this good. With how bad the NFC is, you can just bully teams so much in the trenches. I still think they're ahead of Minnesota. They're ahead of I think it's Dallas, Philly, and then I have the Niners still right up there with Brock Purdy.
Yeah, I think the downside risk with Brock Purdy as opposed to Jimmy Garoppolo is there's very much going to be, and maybe it's not going to happen every single game. And in this particular game, it actually happened where they got, defensive holding penalty, so it negated the interception. But he's very much going to have a what the fuck throw, I would say, maybe once a game. And I think we kind of saw that play out in his entire career at Iowa State as well. He can make a lot of throws, and he is a very accurate quarterback, but he is going to have one or two situations that could potentially turn into somewhat back-breaking type plays for a 49ers offense. So that's still probably the spot that I'm, projecting out a little bit here. And I do still think, the Eagles and the 49ers specifically, I think, are really good at playing from ahead. Can they come back from behind? It is still probably going to be, a question that's lingering until they actually end up doing that. So that's probably my concern with the first two teams. So even though Dallas probably had way bigger of a scare against the Houston Texans this week, I still think they are probably the best team in the NFC. And then I would have Eagles and 49ers very close to them with the question remaining of how can they actually come from behind and win a game against a team that I think matches up well against them.
I can't believe that you have the Cowboys that high up. I mean, that is. Are you wearing your Cowboys shirt? Is that what you're wearing?
It's
right now,
similar color. I don't know.
Goodness.
I think they have the pieces, in a lot of spots. I do think that, their offensive line kind of gets healthy as well at the right time. Dak Prescott very much has these weird games like he had today where he is very much, not playing all that well from a quarterback position. But I do think there's also this high end ceiling outcome where he could run through and he could beat every team in the NFC. And I think that's the part that is maybe at least a question mark from the other two contenders in the NFC, in both the Eagles and the 49ers. And I think Jalen Hurts is starting to prove that every single week, but I still think the top end range for Dak might just be a little bit higher than what Jalen Hurts currently offers.
I guess your point is just as long as Dak isn't playing the worst team in the NFL, a 17.5-point favorite, it'll be great. I think the Cowboys are firmly the third best team in the NFC. And here's how I'd separate the Eagles and the 49ers. If one of them is down 14, the chances that Brock Purdy is coming back from 14 points, the chances that Brock Purdy has the ability to make throws when the game isn't a 30-point game, just totally unknown. I mean, he had a 6.5 ADOT today, average depth of target. He did make some nice throws down the field, but again, in a game that was just never really in question. Jalen Hurts had a really nice game today as well. And the ability for the Eagles to beat you in so many different ways, that the Niners, especially without Deebo Samuel, just don't quite have that. That said, even without Deebo Samuel, the 49ers have more playmakers than the Cowboys do, have a much, much better coach. And I think that the difference between Brock Purdy and Jimmy G is very small. It's very small. It probably is the fact that Jimmy G knows the playbook really well, has more confidence, probably going to make a few more throws on third down. He's just probably more clutch than Brock Purdy, which isn't a lot at the end of the day. And so I would have the 49ers firmly in second there. And I think we're going to see how the market feels, because they're playing on Thursday night against Seattle. Of course, Seattle did not look good today either. Okay, let's do this. Let's pick a team, because the playoffs are starting to get interesting. Let's each pick a team that is not currently in the playoffs that we think will be in the playoffs when it's all said and done. Brad, we'll start with you.
Yep, I'm going with your New York Jets. So I don't know if you guys watched the game closely today. Mike White made a bunch of very nice throws, not just checkdowns, not just dump it off to whoever. Like stand in the pocket, It took two of the biggest hits I think I've seen any quarterback take the entire season, and delivered a strike to Garrett Wilson on one of them. Quinn Williams did get hurt, but it's a calf injury. Hopefully he's back. But the rest of their schedule, they have Detroit at home, Jacksonville at home, at Seattle, at Miami. They're currently 7-6. I think they're a legit team. I'm a Mike White believer. And again, we're joking, but he's better than Zach Wilson. So you're upgrading your quarterback going into the last month of the season. I think he'll be fine. He'll stay healthy. I know his stat line and the score didn't look good today, but he honestly made a bunch of nice throws. I'm buying the Jets sneaking in the bottom of the AFC playoff picture.
So I'll go with the team that we saw most recently, and it's partially because I do think quarterback play, especially high-end quarterback play, definitely matters. But the Chargers, we had getting in 51% of the time with a win here on Sunday Night Football. They did do that, and I see 0 losses on the rest of their schedule. I think they're going to beat a Titans team that is very much, I would say, somewhat in a free fall here next week. And then they have the Colts, they have the Rams at home, and then they have the Broncos on the road. And I think that all 4 of those going to be victories. They might need just a little bit of help to get in, but I think with what we saw from Justin Herbert, even, outside of the fact that he did have his wide receiver unit back, like very much, I would say, dealing with, a ton of quick pressure type situations, and the fact that they don't throw the ball further than, 10 yards past the line of scrimmage, and conceivably be any, situation. I still think the Chargers are going to get in. I think they're going to be a really tough out if they end up doing that. And I think we kind of saw that here, coming out of Sunday Night Football.
All right, I'm the only one with the balls to say it. It's the Detroit Lions. Here's the Detroit Lions' last 4 games. At the New York Jets. Now, you mentioned Mike White. Mike White might have 3 ribs that aren't broken.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
That dude took hits. I can't imagine that he's going to be able to, how he throws a football this week, I do not know. They then play Carolina. Despite the fact that Carolina beat the Seahawks today, let's not, pretend that by that time Sam Darnold will be a complete pumpkin. They then play at home against the Bears. Now, the Bears, obviously a spunky team, but they're not playing the Bills. And then they close out the year at Green Bay, which normally would be a really tough game. But there's a very, very, very good chance that is Jordan Love, right? In a game where he might be playing for his future with the team, in which case there's a lot of pressure on him. Those are all incredibly winnable games. I think they should be favored in probably all. I don't think they're going to be favored. Teaser alert here. I don't think they'll be favored against the Jets, but I don't think it'll be past 3. And then you look at who their competition is. It really hurts them that the Giants and Commanders tied. Hopefully, for their sake, they don't tie again on Sunday night next week. But the Giants and Commanders both stink. Okay, they're both not very good. The only thing that's kind of hurting them here is that they have that tie, but both those teams are worse than the Detroit Lions. So I think the Lions close it out. They go 4-0. And they get themselves into the playoffs. Seahawks, kind of the tires are falling off there, and so that's my call. Ben, tomorrow, Cardinals, Patriots. We've got some teasers on the line here. Any other plays that you like?
I honestly, I feel bad saying this. That, like I said earlier, my 3 biggest conviction plays all lost here on Sunday, but I love the Cardinals in this spot. I've been fading the Patriots for quite some time. I do think that this is going to be this weird Cliff Kingsbury, almost blow up game in a lot of situations. I do think we see the Cardinals put up a ton of points against the Patriots defense that I think, is very overrated. So I like the Cardinals on the money line. I like DeAndre Hopkins over 6.5. And I think it might be hopefully a blowout victory for the Cardinals here on Monday Night Football.
It's Hollywood and DeAndre are both playing. It's the first time.
It's finally happening. This is what we've been waiting for all year, right? So it's
there's a mobile quarterback against Bill Belichick.
Right.
Everyone's making a big deal of how dumb Cliff Kingsbury is. Yeah, I'm with you. And so Anyways, that spells now we're all on the same side. That's
Exactly.
terrifying. So fade at your own glory. Ben Brown, PFF _ Ben Brown. By the way, I should shout out you and the rest of the team, Timo, Ben Lindsay. Kornacki is back.
He's back
on Sunday Night Football. Yeah. So if you're watching either Football Night in America before Sunday night or Sunday night, and you see Steve Kornacki on there, those are PFF numbers.
Pointing at all those numbers, right?
Yeah.
He had the chance to give us a shout out. He wouldn't. He didn't follow through, unfortunately.
We'll have to talk to him. He, we might have to get him back on the pod. Eric and I had him on the pod,
right?
And throwback. Eric and him wore like the same outfit. It's the funniest. It was so funny. Shout out to the doctor who must be having an absolute day with the restoration of the Detroit Lions. Anyways, Ben Brown, go follow him on Twitter. Find his stuff on the PFF app and PFF.com. Ben, we love you.
Thank you, guys.
All right, Arjun's going to hopefully make his way over here. There he is. He's alive. I was worried that, just drenched in sweat, worshiping his golden idol of Justin Herbert. But he's here for us. Before we get to him real quick, a quick reminder that you can go get all of the betting dashboard information, player props, best bets, great betting content on PFF.com and the PFF app. Go download it at the iOS App Store by searching PFF. Also, if you're still in your fantasy football leagues, which after the worst performance in human history, I'm no longer there. But if you still are, then you have some big decisions coming up, and PFF can help you out with that as well. Nathan Yaki and Eden Hartitz, plus all of PFF's fantasy football tools can be at your hands and lead you to a championship. If you're looking to bet, BroThrow, great place for you to go do it because it's not legal to bet in every single state. And BroThrow is not a sports book. It's just you betting against other people online and then them paying you via Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, Skrill, Strike, whatever it is. And that means you also don't have to pay a little tax. No vig. You bet 10, you win 10. BroThrow.com/PFF. I can attest you do get paid out. So go make it happen. It is a great way to bet on sports. And last but not least, if you had maybe a tough week in the betting category and you're looking for some financial advice to make sure that you can pay for Christmas gifts, go to westernsouthern.com/PFF. Our friends at Western Southern Financial Group do a great job of helping you put together a game plan for whatever it is that you're looking to do. Buy your first home, start a family, get out of gambling debt, make your money grow, make more money to gamble more because you're so good at it and you listen to this podcast. I don't know. A lot of options for you. westernsouthern.com/PFF. All right. Arjun, you have 30 seconds to tell us about Justin Herbert and why you were right. What was your big takeaway from the Justin Herbert performance and the Tua performance tonight?
Yeah, big takeaway from Herbert performance is that he is the team. And when the team needed a bucket, he did whatever was needed. It was clear as day who the better quarterback was. The fact that it was discussion was, kind of just shows what people need to do to get their name out there sometimes. It was a laughable discussion. On Tua's side, something that I thought was interesting, the Chargers basically copied the 49ers scheme and Tua struggled again. So I'm curious to see if this is a trend going forward, but my big takeaway was Tua looked awful and he struggled versus a scheme that he struggled in versus last week as well.
It is interesting.
That was great.
Yeah. Emmanuel Acho, I think, still is going to come on tomorrow and find a way. He's going to find a way. Like any true performer will. He's going to come out and perform, and I cannot wait for it. The fact that, I don't know, I'm assuming everyone saw it, but I thought of you immediately, Arjun. Yeah. The Emmanuel Acho, on the list of cringeworthy things that I've seen over the past many years, the Emmanuel Acho rap about Justin Herbert is up there with the most cringeworthy things. It is really, really bad. So it was destined for Herbert to come out and kick some ass. But it will be very interesting to see Tua down the stretch. Now that they're a team that people expect to light it up, people are clearly studying their scheme very, very closely. They've now seen some teams not do or do some things that keep them kind of grounded. They've got a little injury for their weapons, right? The greatest running back in the NFL, Jeff Wilson, is hurt. Tyreek's got a little bit of bum ankle. Jalen Waddle came into this game a little banged up. Teron Armstead banged up. So it will be interesting how the end of this year goes and what they think going into next season. Like it could the wheels could fall off. Like they could not make the playoffs. It is very much a possibility. All right, week 15. As we normally do, we go through all the games. We guess the lines. We look at what the actual line is, and then we decide whether we're going to make a bet on it. Last week, a lot of teasers. The Minnesota Vikings screwed up some of our plays, but thankfully, we got the Kansas City Chiefs and the Ravens teaser. That came through for us. So hopefully you're on board with that. We march into week 15, full slate now. Everybody is back from bye. We start week 15 with San Francisco, Seattle on Thursday Night Football. Arjun kicks off.
Yeah, so this is one that I changed like right before we recorded because Brock Purdy actually looks good. So I made this 49ers -3.
I had Seattle +3.5.
I just, your guys' lack of respect for someone dethroning the GOAT. I don't know. Maybe that's a little Deebo Samuel. I didn't really adjust this for Deebo Samuel. I think he's a big part of that offense, but I have San Francisco by 4.5. It is on FanDuel Sportsbook, Seattle +3.5, -114. So that could be moving to 3 shortly. Arjun, what are you doing with this?
Yeah, I think I'm going to lay off here, but the thing is, like, the Seahawks defense is like really bad. Like Brock Purdy might actually like look great again this week, and the 49ers defense had the best defensive performance of any defense against Geno Smith back in week 2, I believe. So, the 49ers defense has been humming along for weeks now. Assuming they all stay healthy, I think they'll match up well with the Seahawks offense. But yeah, again, like betting on Brock Purdy here is kind of a tough thing you're asking me to do.
So I'm going to continue to disrespect George. I'm buying, 49ers cover and blowout Tom Brady with Brock Purdy. Seattle loses. I'm taking Seattle here, +3.5. I like buying it low. You get over a field goal at home on a short week. Eventually, we're going to get Brock Purdy. Teams are going to take some time, sit down, study his game, figure him out a little bit. And I don't think Deebo Samuel, for a Thursday game, I don't think he plays here. Ayuk was great. Kittle was great. McCaffrey. The Seahawks defense in particular, just against the run, is just atrocious. So some concerns there. But all that said, I think it's an overreaction in both directions. I think, all right, let's watch Brock Purdy. Let's figure this guy out. And he'll get exposed a little bit on a short week in Seattle.
You make a good point. At some point, someone will expose Brock Purdy, but it won't be on a short week, and it sure as hell won't be the Seattle Seahawks. And that atrocious defense. Where Brock Purdy will get exposed is against a team that is going to be able to go up big against them, and the 49ers defense is going to be a little bit, overmatched. Like, for example, against a Kansas City. Even though Seattle has not looked good in the last few games, and Geno Smith, the shine is coming off a little bit. San Francisco on defense came out pretty healthy in that game. Eric Armstead now back. So I'm going to buy San Francisco here. I think, it's going to get to 3 maybe. So if you want to wait and get 3, go ahead. But for the sake of entertainment, I'm going to take the 49ers. Indy, Minnesota. 2 really crappy teams, one of which happens to be in the playoffs and winning a division. Arjun.
I went Colts +5.
Yeah, I had Minnesota -4.5.
I had Mini -4.5 as well. That is what the line is at. It is shaded slightly in the other direction. Mini -4.5 is -108. Colts +4.5 is -112. Arjun.
It's tough here because I think I'm going to lay off, but the Vikings defense is getting to like awful levels, like bottom 5 in the league. Couldn't stop the Lions at all. The Lions had 1 3-and-out, and that was the first drive of the game, which is weird. Usually they do well on scripted plays, but the Vikings defense could not stop the Lions like at all today. And I'm not saying the Colts are this offensive, like at least an average offensive team, but with how light boxes the Vikings like to run, I think the Colts could have some success on the ground in this game with Taylor.
Yeah, Ed Donatel, the defensive coordinator in Minnesota, is a Fangio tree guy, ton of 2 high safeties. And even with Harrison Smith out today, they kind of I don't know. I didn't think they really changed up enough and recognized how valuable he is to this defense. They've already had secondary issues beyond him. They did get Cam Dantzler back in this game, but I also think their issue too is like, I mean, Justin Jefferson had over 200 yards, got robbed of a touchdown and a bunch more yards. He should have, had that score at the end of the game there. But their defense is truly a bottom 5 defense. Granted, India's bottom 5 in EPA per play on offense, but I'm not going to take either side here, but 46.5 on the total. Minnesota, until they can actually stop anyone. I mean, Mac Jones has been one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL, was horrific against the Bills, and put up great numbers against Minnesota the week before. If anything, I'm leaning towards the over there with Indy off a bye, like you said, in a good matchup. I think Michael Pittman will dominate whoever he goes up against. Paris Campbell's played well in the slot. I think they're going to move the ball, and Minnesota will still also move the ball.
I'm going to lay off this one. My hope is that I don't have to watch any of this game. But these are Saturday games. I forgot to mention this, right? So we have this. So it's the Christmas week Saturday games are like the normal slate of games. And then we have that Christmas trio, which is honestly so disappointing. It is just so sad that they have such shitty games on Christmas. These Saturday games are pretty good. But that's the early one, and it deserves to be. Next up, we have, which should have been a really good game, Baltimore-Cleveland. But this looks to be, I believe, a guy named Anthony Brown, who I thought was like a NBA player for a second, because I had not heard of an NFL player named Anthony Brown, playing against Bill Cosby and the Cleveland Shittards, Shitbirds, whatever I want to call them. The Cleveland Browns looked awful again today, like awful, just so bad. Arjun, what do you make this spread?
Yeah, this was tough. I just went with Ravens +3.
So I had Cleveland -2.5, and real quick, wind advisory, terrible wind projected for this game.
So it's Anthony Brown though, right? Like that
Anthony Brown, BC legend, Oregon legend, Anthony Brown. Yeah, it looks like.
Okay, and you're still making this less than a field goal.
Yep.
Wow. I had Cleveland by 7. Anthony Brown, really? Is there something that you know about him that I don't? I guess I'm out to lunch.
Deshaun hasn't looked good at all. I don't think he's been that good.
Yeah, and Amari came into the day today, almost missed the game. It was a game time decision. He did play, but was kind of laboring throughout the entire game. Yeah. Look, also it was like Lamar fall off to Huntley, not that drastic, and then Anthony Brown made some plays today.
Yeah, I think Huntley might play, according to the chat here. I mean, yeah, I guess I'll be woefully wrong. Arjun, what are you doing with this one?
I kind of like the under in this game, 40.5. I know I didn't even think about the win stuff, but I mean, neither team is probably going to be able to move it on the ground or through the air, and I think the Ravens could have some success on the ground against this really, really bad Browns rush defense, which allowed Joe Mixon, who was having one terrible season with the Bengals, to run for 96 yards on 6.9 yards per carry, even though one of those rushes was a 40-yard rush. The Browns' run defense is still bad. The Ravens can take advantage of it. J.K. Dobbins looked spry in his return to the lineup. But I still kind of like the under 40.5. And I know we don't bet with trends, but the divisional unders have been money this year.
They certainly have. I would lean Cleveland here, if anything. I know I'm even short of the spread here. I see it's a field goal on BetMGM. I mean, the Watson has been horrific. 2 games in a row, he's been really, really bad. I think eventually that turns. But then also, if it is a ground game, if it's a ground battle, I think we associate a good running offense with the Ravens, but no Kevin Zeitler in this game today. Not sure about his status next week. And then obviously no Lamar Jackson and/or Huntley. I don't know how well they are going to run the ball. J.K. Dobbins did look pretty good today, but I think that they could be kind of not very effective in that area, and that will kill them. I'll take the Brownies here, -3.
Yeah, I feel like I have to out of principle. Also, I came up with like the worst derogatory term for the Browns humanly possible, which just a bad omen all around. So my apologies there. Huntley might play. If he doesn't play, I think getting Cleveland -3 is a wonderful line. So you're going to get a bunch of value there. So I'm going to take the Cleveland Browns. I'm going to feel terrible about it. I apologize to all members of the printing press. The Saturday night game is a good one. Miami, Buffalo. In Buffalo, obviously, Miami won the first game in Miami. So this is a big game, especially now that Miami, after losing that game, really has to get this one here. Arjun.
Yeah, I went Bills -7.
I had Bills -5.5.
I had 5.5 as well. And let's see. What is it here? I'm seeing
Can't find it
7.
anywhere. Oh, wow.
I see 7. So Arjun hit that one on the money. What are you doing with it?
Yeah, I kind of like it as a teaser leg. I do like the Bills kind of straight up on 7 just because Tyreek got hurt. Their secondary, the Dolphins secondary, is really hurt. Stephon Diggs, I think, will have his way with them next week. It will be in Buffalo. I don't really know if the Tua is not a cold weather quarterback claim is like that founded with evidence, but I think teasing the Bills down to 1 is something I like here.
So should have said on the top, another wind advisory game. These are the only 2 games for next weekend that I circled. Again, it is early, but it's on Saturday, and both of them had like 40-mile-an-hour winds. So another game where that might be relatively impactful. I think the loss of Tyreek Hill, you might think, oh, it's going to impact downfield passing. It also might impact his ability to create after the catch if they can't throw downfield with Tua in the wind. I love Buffalo as a teaser leg here.
Yeah, I can get on board with that. By the way, how many times will we hear about people betting Jeff Saturday on a Saturday? Can't wait. I just can't
Did
wait.
none of
He's
us take it?
undefeated.
I should have taken it. I'm not going to, but I should have. Now I feel bad.
You should have taken it. This spot is going to be tough for Miami, no doubt about it, with how banged up they are. And Buffalo has now an opportunity to see some teams, have their way with Tua and confuse him a little bit. So I like the teaser leg as well. All right, moving on to Sunday. We have Philly at Chicago. Chicago coming off of a bye. Hopefully Justin Fields feeling a little bit better. Arjun?
I went Eagles -11.
I had Eagles -10.
I guess I have too much respect for Justin Fields. I had 8.5. But that is what it is. It is Bears at home plus 8.5. Arjun?
Okay, Brad, since you're the weather guy now, are there any wins in
No concerns here.
Chicago?
Those first 2 were the only ones I have. Yep.
Okay. So I am going to take the Eagles here. Today kind of showed like they can put their foot down and just like run over people or just like keep piling it on like they did versus the Giants today. The Bears secondary is a privilege, and AJ Brown should have his way with whoever's guarding him. And if he doesn't, Devontae Smith should. There really is no way for the Bears to stop the Eagles. And I think the Eagles' run defense has gotten better in recent weeks. So I don't really see the Bears having too much success offensively unless JF1 goes crazy. So I am going to take the Bears here.
Yeah, so I think Jalen Johnson will get a lot of
Eagles.
A.J. Brown, which, he hasn't been quite as good as he normally is this year, but I do think it's a Devontae game, and it's a different conversation. But for props or whatever, I think maybe Devontae is the target in this game. Yeah, I mean, Philly is just so much better than this team. Chicago's the worst defense in the NFL in paper play since week 6. They are horrific against the run. You mentioned their secondary is a privilege. Watching them try to tackle against the run is an even bigger privilege, especially with Jaquan Brisker out, although I think he should be back for this game, as will Kyler Gordon. But, yeah, I would lean Philly here for sure. They can just win in too many ways and do too much. And I think for Chicago on offense, no Darnell Mooney now, whether it's James Bradbury or Darius Slay, they'll take Chase Claypool out of this game entirely. I just don't think they can do enough on offense. Like their defense is so bad, we know that, and they're just not going to be able to keep pace with the scoring if it's all Justin Fields running the ball, which it probably will be. So I'm not going to bet it, but I get why the spread is over 8 here.
Yeah, I feel one of the reasons I made this 8.5 was Chicago coming off of a bye. We saw them come off a mini bye and look really good. And they just have that. They really do feel a little bit like the Eagles last year, where Jalen Hurts they'd get down, and then Jalen Hurts would just do some crazy shit. And they're a great backdoor cover team at home. If I had to bet one side of this, I actually think I would take Chicago, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go against my buddy. We win and we lose as a team here. So I'm gonna lay off this one. Atlanta, New Orleans. Desmond Ridder, finally. For some reason, still Andy Dalton in New Orleans, unless something comes out. I cannot believe that Jameis Winston is still sitting on the bench. But nonetheless, Arjun, would you make this?
I went Saints -3.5.
I had Saints -2.5.
Okay. I had Saints -3.5 here, and I considered making it more, honestly. Little worried about, we don't really know much about Desmond Ridder. Does that help Atlanta maybe to some degree here? But New Orleans is a tough place to start your career, especially with the Falcons and Mr. Smith there. It is, where is this game?
I got +3.5 or Saints -3.5, but MGM.
3.5. I see -114 on that, so maybe
Towards Atlanta,
getting out there. So interesting. Arjun, what are you doing with this?
Yeah, I don't really like either side because the Saints have killed me all year. But okay, so I looked back at the Saints Week 1 game against the Falcons, and a big part of the Falcons' offensive success was Mariota's legs. 12 rushes, 72 yards, 6 yards per carry, and a touchdown. He was making plays with his legs, and the Saints have a notoriously old defense. Guys like Cameron Jordan, Carl Granderson, Peyton Turner's kind of young, but Davenport, these are like a little bit of older guys. Davenport is a little bit athletic, but for the most part, it's a lot of slow guys on that Saints defense. And for Ridder, unless he's really using his legs, I don't trust the Falcons' drop back offense enough to score at all on the road against the Saints defense, which put Tom Brady in hell on Monday, except until the refs gave them a 44-yard DPI. So I don't really feel comfortable backing Andy Dalton here. But I think if anything, the Saints are probably the play for me.
The Atlanta Falcons have the better quarterback and the better head coach in this matchup, in my opinion. I think they're going to come out of the bye week flying with Desmond Ridder. He looked awesome in the preseason. I know it's the preseason, but he looked like the best rookie quarterback, which also doesn't mean much of anything, but he did. And he's not Mariota with his legs, but he can scamper, get a couple first downs on scrambles. I am taking the Falcons here +3.5.
That has some feelings. I know you're not the same level of fan for New Orleans Saints as Arjun is for the Chargers, but that had a little bit of that edge to it.
No. The Andrew Dalton experience needs to end, and I think it ends with a divisional loss to the Desmond Ridder in his debut.
It's so interesting. Andy Dalton is winning. It feels like Andy Dalton went and read the PFF grading rubric and was like, I'm going to win in PFF grade this year. 87 PFF grade, and just at all times when it matters, looks like complete garbage on the field. But kudos to him for figuring that out. I do think the Saints would be the side that I would lean on if I had to pick one, but I'm going to lay off. Detroit and the Jets. Very interested to see what you guys made this. Arjun?
Oh,
I went Lions pick 'em.
I also went
Lions pick 'em.
Lions yeah, I also went Lions pick 'em.
That reminded me of, I saw this I think it was like a TikTok of some 15-year-old kid in Miami giving out picks, and he's on a jet ski. I don't know if you guys have seen this. It's absolutely incredible. It's like these two 15-year-old kids convincing people to bet their picks, saying they're betting thousands and thousands of dollar units and winning. And by claiming that they bought boats and jet skis and everything. And the guy opens up and says, some team, I would say it's Dolphins. It's like Dolphins 7.5. And you're like, someone in the comments is like, that's how you know this person has no idea what they're talking about. Detroit pick 'em. I have the Jets by 2 in this one. It is Jets by 1.5. But Lions +1.5 is -120. So that will probably move a little bit, especially because it's not through a key number yet. So we'll call it 1.5. It's going to move though. Arjun.
I gotta restore it. I love the Lions in the spot. The one thing I think the Lions are susceptible to, and their biggest weakness on offense, is interior pressure. But Quinnen Williams had a really nasty leg injury. Prayers up for him. Don't know the severity of it. Seems like it's day to day, but don't know how effective he's going to be, even if he plays next week. The Lions. So my angle for this game is the Jets are an elite defense. Elite offenses beat elite defenses, unless I guess like the elite defense has a great game plan for the elite offense. Robert Salah, I think he gets his players to execute his scheme very well, but I think his scheme is something that Jared Goff doesn't typically struggle with. I saw this on Twitter from Rob Pizzola, who I know is a friend of the pod when you and Eric were doing it together, and he talked about how like you can bet like betting on Jared fading Goff in certain defensive game plans has typically worked in the past, like the Belichick game plans and stuff like that. I don't think Salah will kind of try to emulate that. I think he'll run what he normally runs. And I think that kind of cover 3 single high stuff will allow Goff to do well in this game. And again, like I don't really know what the quarterback situation is in New York, but I think the Lions offense is definitely better than the Jets offense. And they've I think been the number 1 offense since like week 9 or something, or week 6, whatever Timo posted on Twitter today. So I like the Lions in this spot.
Yeah, he does better against zone than man coverage by a like staggering amount, and Salah does sit back in a lot of cover 3 shells. It's a teaser leg for me. I'm not going to bet the Lions outright, but it's definitely a teaser leg at 1.5.
Let's tease them. I'm a big fan of that. The only thing that scares me a little bit, total 47.5. The weather, not seeing anything crazy here.
Nothing crazy. Yeah.
Weather has been shitty. This certainly is not a dome game, right? Like I think that's, that would be kind of the concern here, if you have any. But I mean, they just killed the Giants in the Meadowlands, so that I guess isn't a concern. So let's tease them. Let's do it. Pittsburgh, Carolina, in Carolina. Arjun.
I went Steelers +2.
Yeah, Carolina -1.5.
This is a pick, mostly because I was like, both these teams stink. They don't deserve my time. Carolina -1.5, -115. The Carolina Panthers control their own destiny in the NFC South. Nothing would be more indicative of this season than the Carolina Panthers winning the NFC South, by the way. That would be absolutely hilarious. It is -115. Carolina -1.5 is -115.
Yeah, so first 2 things. I did not think we'd see the Panthers favorite in another game this season, especially after Matt Rule got fired. And number 2, I know Judah, who's been on the pod, who comes on the pod every week, his kind of like betting partner who he does a live stream with every weekend is holding a Panthers 40-1 NFC South ticket. So I'm hoping that the Panthers continue their hot run. But in terms of this game, I like the Panthers as a teaser leg, or the Steelers as a teaser leg, because if the Panthers beat the Steelers by more than 8, then again, that's one thing you just charge it to the game.
Yeah, the Steelers actually had 6.2 yards per play today, outgained the Ravens, and the Carolina in their win had 4.6 yards per play. Kind of a fluky game there in some respects. The running game, just like I said earlier, just destroyed the Seattle Seahawks. But the Steelers are actually top 10 in EPA per rush allowed and top 5 in success rate of opposing running game. And that was all that really Carolina had today was Deontay Foreman just kind of eating up clock and gaining yards, and not even just Deontay Foreman. But long answer short, it's a teaser leg for me as well. I like Pittsburgh here. Look, Mitchell was Mitchell. He's, we all got a nice taste of Mitchell Trubisky as, 3 picks, a nice outing. He actually did have a decent game otherwise, though. I am taking Pittsburgh in a teaser here for sure.
Yeah, I can get on board with that. This was flipped, I guess. Not through a P number, but across 0 for all the people that love the key number of 0, of which there are many out there.
Shout out Tantilla.
Yeah. Kenny Pickett is probably not going to play. Concussion.
I don't think so. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that worries me just ever so slightly. But Yeah, I think the teaser is the play here. I mean, the total on this game is going to be pretty low, right?
38.5.
38.5. Yeah. So that's a lovely teaser game. Again, for any members of the press that are new, you will be wise to tease games with lower totals because that means that those big spread differences, point differentials at the end of the game are less likely when it's a low scoring game. Dallas, Jacksonville in Jacksonville. Arjun.
I went Cowboys -3.5.
I had Jags plus 5.5.
All right, Jags plus 3. And it is Jags plus 4.5 in Jacksonville.
Yeah, so Dak had one of those games he kind of has every season where it just like things aren't really clicking for the Cowboys and they're kind of just letting these bad teams hang around. I don't really think the Cowboys defense was that great either. They were missing their 2 starting corners. Jaron Kearse gets hurt during pregame warmups. Just a weird game for the Cowboys. I didn't really know how to react to it or like if there should be any major takeaways. There is some major takeaway from the Titans Jags game in that Trevor Lawrence is like everyone's kind of just been on this like wave. I think if you're gonna bet the Jags, you're kind of buying the Jags at their high. But yeah, I don't really like either side. I just think it's interesting to see like what the reactions will be from both of their teams' games, which were not what people were expecting.
Yeah, I like the over 46.5 here. I'm going to put that down as a play. I got to start taking these totals. I keep talking about them, not taking them. So over 46.5 here. I think Dallas is going to score. I mean, the Jaguars defense did start the season pretty well, but has just not been good. And then, yeah, I mean, Lawrence is starting to stack some of these games. I'm not going to anoint him just yet, but you mentioned the Jaron Kearse injury. Their offensive line is like just good enough, but also Lawrence over the past month, sub 2.5 second average time to throw. That's been a big part of it, is just getting the ball out so much quicker. He has playmakers. I mean, Evan Ingram went crazy today, but Zay Jones, Christian Kirkland, they have enough there to kind of spread the ball around. I like the over 46.5 in this one.
Yeah, get on board with that. Like that a lot. By the way, some good things in the chat. Someone said that Arjun, you're classy AF with that Michigan hoodie. What I want to know is, can we get the sunglasses combined with the Michigan hoodie? The sunglasses in the profile picture, I feel like
they're right on deck.
We need.
I got them.
We
I
need
had
those
them right here.
Oh
the
my
Chargers W
goodness!
glasses right there.
Jesus Christ!
It's a family show, Arjun. There's kids watching. It's midnight.
Are there kids watching?
It's only 9:30.
Not anymore.
I don't know.
Not anymore. They've been put to sleep. Nothing spells I'm a diehard Chargers fan like those sunglasses. That you look like you're a part of the Matrix right now. Those are awesome.
they are a little bit big.
What are they? Are they like? They look like they've got some sort of red finish or something like that.
Yeah.
What's your favorite coin right now, Arjun? Of all the.
Yeah, that's good. What are you hodling right now? I am laying off this one. I agree. I mean, like both teams, I think the point would be here. Dallas looked horrible. Jacksonville, despite Trevor Lawrence being a little gimpy, looked amazing. He was great today. I think he's probably gonna end up with top 3 PFF grade this season or this week. One other really good comment in the chat was someone called out that Zonovan
Knight. Oh, Bam Knight. Come on now.
Yeah, Zonovan M. Night Shyamalan is averaging 5 yards per carry. And everyone remembers the Jets trading up for him in the second round. So, I've got to shut up and eat some crow now. Kansas City, Houston. In Houston. This is going to be the biggest spread of the week. Arjun?
Yeah, I went Chiefs -14.
Yeah, I had Texans and the Fighting Driscolls plus 14.5.
I saw some incredible photography of Driscoll on the timeline today. I had Houston plus 14.5, and it looks like it's 14. Arjun?
Yeah, I've tended to stay away from the Chiefs at these like super high spreads just because we typically get Andrew, not Andy. So I don't really think they're going to show anything against the Texans. It's going to be some standard stuff. Could have some weird stuff happen at the end of the game because the Chiefs defense is pretty bad. So yeah, it's just a stay away game for me.
Yeah, I agree on the spread there. I think random thought, but Isaiah Pacheco might have like 25, 30 carries in this game because Houston's run defense is just horrific, and they'll just, like you said, keep it simple, get some Jerick McKinnon action. I wouldn't bet them either.
Yeah, I guess I'll stay away as well, though I could see a case to be made for Houston getting 2 scores, given what Arjun was saying there. Arizona, Denver. Any thoughts on whether this will be Wilson or Rippon?
I would guess Rippon. Wilson's hit
Yeah.
looked terrible, and he had like a big bump on his head. And also, why
Mhm.
would you play him? I think it will be Rippon.
So Arizona, Denver in Denver with Rippon.
Yeah, I had it at Cards +2 before the Rippon injury. Then I just went Cards -1.
So I had Denver +2. Yeah.
Yeah, I have Denver +2.5. It is Denver +1.5 -115.
Ooh, just to
So
point out real quick, on
yeah.
BetMGM they're -1. So there's some line shopping opportunity or teaser opportunity if you like Arizona there potentially.
I do like the Cardinals straight up. I don't think we're gonna get Rondale Moore tomorrow for the Patriots game. I guess it's today because it's Monday night, or Monday morning, but whatever. But the Cardinals should have their full plethora of weapons, or at least receivers back with Rondale Moore, Marquise Brown, and DeAndre Hopkins on the field for the first time all season. The Broncos defense had like a really bad stretch and then a really good stretch, and then I just think their offense is really bad, and the Cardinals like blitz heavy offense will kind of put Rippon in some tough situations. So I do like the Cardinals here, whatever the line we make it -1.5.
Yeah, I would lean Arizona here as well. The thing though, and this isn't even being like facetious or a joke, like with how bad Wilson's been, I'm not sure Rippon is that much of a downgrade. But yeah, considering at least at BetMGM you can tease Arizona. I won't do that. We're going the official -1.5. Yeah, I would lean towards the Cardinals here. And if you are, shopping around, I might put in a bet on a Cardinals teaser before we get off here.
Yeah, I think that's the play. Denver did look absolutely terrible with Brett Rippon. Let's be clear. And they were spunky. They came back.
They were.
Like that should have been an absolute blowout. New England, Vegas in Vegas.
Yeah, I went Raiders -3.
I had Raiders -1.5.
Okay. All that makes a lot of sense. But then you have to remember this is Bill Belichick against Josh McDaniels and Derek Carr. Like the double dip. Like both these guys are just going to be in an absolute spin zone all afternoon. So I went New England -2.5, which I knew was going to be wrong, but I did anyways. It is Raiders -1.5. Patriots +1.5 is -118.
Yeah, George, I did kind of have your line of thought initially, but Brian Flores in 2020, 2021, I think 3-1, or with Tua 3-0, because obviously that's the big thing that gets brought up. Tua's wins. It's not like Belichick's like former assistants have like done miserably, and especially in recent years where I think Belichick's like sharpness has kind of worn down a little bit. So fundamentally, I did think Raiders are 3 points better than the Pats, like accounting for home field and everything, and that's why I made it -3. But I totally understand your point. With that being said, I'm not going to bet on the Raiders because, again, I had them in a couple teaser legs and they just blew everything on that Thursday night game. But Devontae Adams might go for like 150 against this Pats secondary if Josh McDaniels decides to keep his foot on the gas pedal.
Yeah, so you just touched on a thing there, Arjun. So yeah, the fact that it's Josh McDaniels, Patriots have a bye week, all that scares me to no end. Raiders do have the mini bye coming off their depressing Thursday loss to the Rams. Like I want to bet the Raiders. They are a fundamentally better football team. They are still top 10 in EPA per play. Mac Jones, like I said, has been awful, but the Raiders defense and their secondary in particular is one of the worst in the NFL. So I almost am tempted to take over 44.5 here. I want to do the Raiders, but I won't. I'm a coward, so I'll just pass.
I will be teasing the Patriots in this game out to +7.5. It is 44.5, so not the highest total in the world. And yeah, I think if you're going to take a side, I would clearly take the Patriots here. Tennessee, a couple of really embarrassing games against the Chargers, who obviously won on Sunday Night Football in Los Angeles. Arjun?
Yeah, I went Chargers -3.
Yeah, I Chargers -3.5.
All right, Chargers -3 as well. And it is Chargers -2.5, -115.
So yeah, Titans looked pretty bad today. Had some unlucky fumbles not go their way, especially one where the Jags kind of started inside the red zone. The Titans, yeah, kind of didn't look good against the Bengals either. And the Chargers like run defense looked actually like okay today outside of some runs. But yeah, this could either be like a huge Derrick Henry game, or I think the Chargers will win by like 10 or something, because the Titans passing offense when they're playing from behind is pretty bad. But I don't know. This could be like a huge mismatch in the trenches with Jeffrey Simmons versus like rookie Zion Johnson. Like that's probably the biggest thing that scares me, the Titans defensive line.
Yeah, I hear all that. I'm going to stick with it. I keep fading the Titans. It's finally worked out for me the last couple of weeks. Henry had 2 fumbles in this game. Tannehill had an ugly interception and a horrific fumble. They're obviously not going to do all those things again, but they just weren't good outside of that. Traylon Burks maybe still misses another game here potentially. I mean, they're just not a good football team. So yeah, I'm going to go Chargers -2.5.
Yeah, that's I think where I'm leaning as well. By the way, Andrew
Mike and Joey
Thomas in
both
the
are back
chat.
too. Sorry, real quick.
Yeah, that's right. Andrew Thomas in the chat. Titans had 16 players on their injury report this week. Probably something to monitor there. Joey Bosa, when they have Joey Bosa, it makes a big difference for that defense. Like a really, really big difference. And especially, against the run. I was impressed by the Chargers secondary today. It was inspiring. I mean, Herbert looks healthy. I think we've gotten so caught up in this Herbert Tua stuff that we've almost forgotten that Herbert was like inching towards that, tier 1 for QBs. Now, there were people in the offseason that were literally livid that he wasn't in the tier 1. I think we've seen that he's not quite there yet, but maybe we've actually forgotten just quite how good he is. Both those receivers, Williams and Keenan Allen, came out of the game healthy, which is also really big. So I'm going to roll with the Chargers here, as like ridiculous as it sounds to think that they'll be a team that will cover games at this point as a favorite. Cincy, Tampa Bay in Tampa.
So do we know what T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, like what their situations are?
They were both questionable to come back in today's game. I don't know their status. I haven't seen anything yet, but neither it seemed like were, ruled out automatically type of thing.
Okay, yeah. So I think Higgins didn't really play at all, so I don't think he aggravated anything. So I'm assuming he's going to play next week. I went Bengals -6.
Whoa.
Wowza. Yeah, I had the Bucks +3.5.
I had Bucks +3, and I felt a little dirty even doing that. It is Bucks +3.5.
Really?
So Arjun, get your wallet out.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely betting that, because okay, I'll ask you guys, what are the Bucks good at?
I got no answer for you.
Okay, so here's my logic. Okay, the Bucks and Brady, and we know this about Brady. He is not Patrick Mahomes. In a game where his offensive line is overmatched, the defense is overmatched, he's not going to create a bunch, and neither are Bowles and Leftwich. But against a team that is not incredibly dominant from a defensive perspective, there's no reason that he can't go out and play well. They still have Evans, they still have Godwin, they have Julio. Brady is still it's not like his arm has fallen off. So that's why I ended up at 3. The Bengals are good, but they're not the type of team that would destroy the Bucs offense, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would push back on that a little bit. I think the Bengals have had some pretty good performances defensively the past couple of weeks. I mean, I think Mahomes didn't really do much, or Mahomes played well, but I don't think he like was up to his normal standards versus the Bengals. They held the Browns to 10 points, and like a large majority of Deshaun's like yards did come like in these garbage time situations. The Bengals with DJ Reader back are one of the best run defenses in the NFL. Nick Chubb had one of his worst performances on the ground, 2.4 yards per carry. And we know the Bucs love their early down runs for 0 yards. So you're going to put Brady in these expected pass situations. I don't, again, with or without the worst, I don't really think it matters. Trey Hendrickson and Sam Hubbard have been having like a hell of a year this year. So again, I just don't know what the Bucs are good at for me to like have any angle on them. And I think since he's kind of shown that they can adapt their scheme both on offense and defense to counter their opponent, to counter whatever they have on injuries. And while I was lower on Burrow this offseason, I think he's kind of played at a level that I wasn't expecting him to play at. So again, I do love the Bengals in the spot.
Yeah, I don't want the Bengals defense to be as good as they are because the injuries in the back end, but it just has not really mattered. Cam Taylor-Britt had a good game. Their second-round rookie out of Nebraska. Like, they just keep playing well on that side of the ball. Like, I mean, they're not a juggernaut, like you said, George, but, like, they've been playing just better than I think they really are on paper because the front has been so good. The safety play has been great. The linebackers, obviously, Jermaine Pratt and Logan Wilson, all those guys back there. And then on offense, I mean, Tampa Bay is just – they cannot move the ball. Well, losing Tristan Wirfs, the last 2 games we've seen since then, you have Donovan Smith, who is committing a hold, I think, every single series. I thought on the touchdown pass to Mike Evans, every fantasy owner, Tom Brady, wanted to kill the guy. I mean, he's got like 6 holdings in the last 2 weeks now, or something like that, which is just ridiculous. So I just know that they have enough to protect Tom Brady for long enough to get open. I'll ride Cincy with you, Arjun.
I'm not going to ruin your guys' win by jumping on the bandwagon, but I'm going to remind myself of something that is a good reminder for all members, all faithful members of the printing press. You can't make a team do what you want them to do. So as much as you want the Bucs to stop running Leonard Fournette or Rachaad White every single first down, every single second and long, they're not going to stop doing it. Their takeaway from this game against the 49ers is 100% going to be, we didn't run the ball enough. Look how much, the Niners ran more than we did. And that's just not the takeaway to have. Trey Hendrickson, 12th among his 117 edge rushers going up against Donovan Smith is a huge mismatch. On the other side with Sam Hubbard going up against Beanie Wells, as I like to call him, at right tackle. Shout out to the former Arizona Cardinals running back. So yeah, I see where you guys are coming at here. And the Bengals 10-3 against the spread, 9-4. The Bucs are 3-9-1 against the spread. Not good. Sunday Night Football, flex the Giants and the Commanders, because who doesn't want to watch really shitty football on Sunday night? Although it should be close. Arjun, what do you make this?
Yeah, I went Giants plus 4.5.
Yeah, I had the same here. I just used the spread from 2 weeks ago and just flipped it for home field.
Yeah.
We've learned nothing about these teams fundamentally since then.
So that's what I did originally, right? And so I originally had this as 4.5. And then I was like, look, the Commanders really have home field over there. Like, let's get real here. These teams both stink. I just felt like anything over a field goal was wrong. But it is Commanders, so I made it a field goal. It is Commanders minus 3.5, and that is minus 115. So that could get out to 4. So you guys are more right than me at this point. But were there any injuries noteworthy in the Giants game? I kind of turned that one off, Brad, because they were just getting destroyed.
You did, George?
Saquon came in as like a game time and looked like it. He was very ineffective today. Otherwise, though, I can't think of anything.
Arjun, what are you doing with this?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would like to think I was on the right side last time when I took Commanders like plus 1 or plus 2, because Commanders eventually ended up closing as like minus 2.5. But I mean, it sucks that I did like the Giants, like their whole like Cinderella story, and now they're just falling from grace. But yeah, I don't, like Brad said, we didn't really learn anything fundamental about these teams last time they played, and yeah, like I don't really feel comfortable backing either side.
Yeah, You mentioned the divisional unders, especially the second round of the divisional unders and all those type of trends they just played. The over 40.5 is kind of intriguing. I think both defenses are not really good at this point with all the injuries in New York, specifically Adoree Jackson against all these receivers for Washington. I think they are going to score, and then I think New York will find ways to move the football with Brian Dable as well. But yeah, 4.5. It's 4.5 on BetMGM. It's too many points for Washington to lay, so I'll lay off this one.
At 4.5, I'm going to go snag 4.5. So I'm going to bet this at 4.5. I'm going to change the spread in the spreadsheet, guys, so that we remember that it's 4.5 since I'm betting this game. And you guys can get credit for being right.
We're in the trust tree. Yeah.
Trust tree nest. But both these teams are average. They're playing one another. Home field is not that big of a deal in this situation. So I'll take the G-Men. It's easy. Washington, New York is such an easy trip. Be plenty of Giants.
Yeah.
Giants were just embarrassed. Washington coming off a bye, feeling like they've got this. They were up by 10 against the Giants when they played last. Closing out on Monday Night Football with the Rams and the Packers, which the schedule makers looked at just a few short months ago and were like, man, this is going to be a great game. Two dominant NFC teams vying for the number one seed. Not so much. Arjun?
I went Packers -7.
Same here.
God, I hate to say this, but I guess I have faith in Baker Mayfield. I have Packers -5.5. It is Packers -7.5. Which means that I'm going to end up betting on Baker Mayfield, which pray for me, guys.
1-0.
Yeah, again, this is like, it could be a teaser for the Packers, tease them down to -2, but it's like, I don't even want to bet on Aaron Rodgers anymore. Like, honestly, if I'm the Packers, I want to see what Jordan Love looks like, but technically, because of how trash the end of the NFC is, the playoff race, the line should be in, but they're not. Commanders, Giants, etc. The Packers are still in the hunt, so I think they're going to convince themselves to keep starting Aaron Rodgers instead of evaluating Jordan Love before they have to make an option on his fifth-year deal, which again I think is a mistake.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. It's maybe a teaser leg. I'm not betting. There's no reason the Packers should be laying that many points against anyone. I would imagine Aaron Donald comes back in this game if he feels like it. So yeah, I'm gonna lay off this one as well.
I hate buying the Rams in this spot, but I feel like across a key number of 7, I've got to do it. It's going to be brutal. Baker Mayfield stinks. It's going to be a nightmare, but I'm going to do it. I think it's the right play. 7.5 is just a lot for a team that's not that great in the Packers. So yeah, I'm going to do it, which means I'm betting on a really, really crappy group of quarterbacks here. Brock Purdy, Bill Cosby,
Anthony Brown. Oh yeah.
Daniel Jones, and Baker Mayfield. So they're all going to celebrate their losses at a Cheesecake Factory. That's going to be great. That was it. We will, of course, write up our favorite early spread picks. We're 1-1 so far this week with one more to go. Teaser leg, second half teaser coming on Monday Night Football. So go check that out. It's on the PFF app and PFF.com. Arjun, Brad, appreciate you fellas. See y'all on Wednesday night. Love you.